Get in the know. Non-stop Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
You like that? You like that?
Hello and welcome in. Daily Vikings entertainment. Just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. This is Purple Daily. Phil Mackey, Judd Zolgad, our executive producer, Declan Goff, and the show is presented by our friends at TCL. Now an official partner of the NFL, one of the world's best-selling consumer electronics brands. They have a new lineup of award-winning TVs delivering the most entertainment with stunning resolution, all at an affordable cost. Enjoy more of the things you love with TCL. Gentlemen, we are 2 weeks away exactly from the first round of the National Football League draft, where we will be at Park Tavern for the Surly Draft Party, the second annual. 6 o'clock start time. That's the glad handing time. That's the put her in the old vice with Judd time. And then at 7 o'clock-ish, we will start a very lengthy, probably 4 to 5 hour YouTube stream where we break everything down for not only the live audience that's at Park Tavern, but also all of you who can't make it watching on YouTube.
And let's just say this. I will not only be putting her in the old vice at 6 p.m., but I can guarantee you I will be checking out the re-debut of Before I Die, which will be on tap and available in a new Before I Die can at Park Tavern on Thursday, the 27th, before it winds up back at Surly and in liquor stores starting in May. One night only in April 27th. Before I Die will be back in rotation, and guess who will be drinking some of them? That's right, me.
All right, it's all about Judd.
Yeah.
If you want to come and watch Judd drink beer at Park Tavern in 2 weeks.
If you want to enjoy a few too, and nothing wrong with that.
Guess who's going to be drinking beer?
Yeah, guess who's going to be having
Guess who has two thumbs and loves a Surly?
Yep,
this guy right here.
Exactly right. Before I Die, the mission of this very program.
Yeah. So we want to meet as many of you as possible or see you again if we've met you at previous events. We're looking forward to it. So, all right, I have a Vikings draft / quarterback question for you that I want to lay something out for you guys on this show today. I feel like we haven't given enough attention to maybe this angle, and maybe we've gone a little too far, us and the collective mocking community. Okay. But I think I just came across something here in mock draft form that we might be a good jumping off point, actually. So we've done 50 of these mock draft roundups. 50 of these. This is our 50th right here that I'm about to present to you guys from SI.com. Mm-hmm. The Fan Nation section of SI.com, okay? And it's a first-round mock. I'm trying to find the author here. Bo M. Marchianti. Bo M has a mock draft. Not gonna mock here.
Yeah, not gonna be mocking here
Not gonna mock. So he's got Bryce Young going number 1.
Okay.
CJ Stroud going number 2 to the Texans. Smoke screen. Number 3, Jalen Carter to the Cardinals. Number 4. So he doesn't have the Colts taking Anthony Richardson. He's got that Northwestern offensive lineman, Skoronski, going to the Colts.
Interesting.
And then I'm just trying to find, Bijan Robinson, 8 to the Falcons. Very interesting. Let's see here. He's got Will Levis going 11 to the Titans. So only 2 quarterbacks in the top 10. Will Levis going 11. And then Anthony Richardson falls to the Commanders at 16. So 4 quarterbacks off the board, but 2 of them between 11 and 16. And that brings us to the 23rd overall pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, where the Minnesota Vikings select.
I lost my chimes. They got deleted.
What?
I was waiting for him. That's why I was doing the hand gestures.
Inside baseball here. The mouse, if you are just hovering over the wrong thing and you meant to click something, it can hover over a new thing and absorb it. And the Nerds football sounder replaced the draft sounder. So that'll be replaced here in just give me like 30 seconds and it'll be back.
Is this what's going to happen on draft night?
No, I don't have a mouse, thankfully, on draft night. This will be good. I
don't know if I can proceed forward until we get the ESPN chimes.
We have to be in our game here. We're dropping the ball.
Yeah. I know we have like a big meeting to discuss, is the internet going to work and stuff like that at Park Tavern, but there it is. Are we going to have the chimes?
We can add the chimes.
Okay.
That's probably a good idea. Yeah. That's actually, I'll write that down.
Write that down.
You like writing things down.
Chimes.
With the 23rd pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, according to SI.com's Fan Nation section, the Minnesota Vikings select, out of the University of Tennessee, quarterback Hendon Hooker. Another one.
I want a mock.
This is now, and I'll give you the write-up here, this is now the fourth mock in the last week from prominent platforms that has put Hendon Hooker on the Minnesota Vikings. You got Todd McShay's latest, Daniel Jeremiah's latest, and Bruce Feldman from The Athletic with not just his, but like, here's the people I talked to type of a mock. Yep. And SI.com says Minnesota's defense ranked 31st in the league, allowing a lot of yards. The amazing statistic for the Vikings is they scored 424 points and allowed 427. One would think they would go defense with this pick, but with Kirk Cousins hitting free agency next year, it leaves the team vulnerable. Hooker is 25 years old, coming off an ACL, which makes this scenario odd. But once again, the market for quarterbacks is at a premium. Truth be told, it's difficult to have both Hooker and Richardson in round one. The risk-reward seems to heavily outweigh the positives for both those guys. So I think my question for you guys is, have we gone too far with this, not only with Hendon Hooker, but with this whole idea that the Vikings, they really need to be on quarterback watch this year? This needs to be the year, right? This has to be the year that the Vikings draft a quarterback. I feel like that we've gone from 2 months ago, they need to draft defense, to now it's like almost every prominent mocker, and even a lot of our conversations are like, okay, well, they can definitely get Hooker in the first round, but should they move up and trade 19 first-round picks to get Stroud, right? Like, do we need to calm down on this Vikings should draft a quarterback in 2023 idea?
Oh, first of all, no, because it's great fun. I mean, are you kidding? Quarterback's so much fun. But I think we have to admit that we don't know. Well, I won't be surprised if the Vikings take a quarterback in this draft. I don't think we know where they're going to take that player. And part of it is because we have no idea what O'Connell's tells are when it comes to this position. He inherited Kirk and did a really good job. But there's a lot about O'Connell and his potential leanings when it comes to the spot that he played. Not real well, but he certainly knows it well and can coach it. There's a lot we don't know yet. And so, I feel like the Hooker thing is a little bit probably forced. It's like, well, Hendon Hooker makes some sense. And now he's just, and I don't know if this is a Vikings thing. It feels more like a mocking community thing. Like, one person did it, and then everyone else was like, oh, that's a good idea. The Vikings need a quarterback. I think there's a better chance they trade back. I think there's a better chance they trade up. If Richardson falls as far as you just had him, and your choices are Hooker at 23 or trying to trade up, not by a lot, but by a little, it would cost you. I think there's more likely that they see upside in Richardson. So, and I also, to go back to what I've been saying for a while now, I feel like the Hooker thing is a smokescreen of sorts. Like, yeah, he played in the system, but you don't get it. Like, that feels like teams are trying to get teams to bite. So I won't be surprised if they take a quarterback. I think that we've probably gone too far in trying to force it at times.
So, and I'll put a bow on the mock segment here.
I want a mock.
We can't exit the mock segment without hitting the mock sounder. It reminds me, I was thinking about this morning when I saw this, just yet another mock draft with Hendon Hooker. And it reminded me of something that we recently made fun of a lot in Minnesota. A little history lesson for you guys. In 2019, the Green Bay Packers hired a fresh-faced, offensive-minded coach, Matt LaFleur, to come on in and rejuvenate the career of 35-year-old Aaron Rodgers, right? That was like Rodgers and Mike McCarthy. McCarthy had gotten kind of crusty, different than Zimmer, because Mike McCarthy has a well-respected offensive background and a Super Bowl title as a coach. But those guys were kind of on the outs. The chemistry was weird. And the Packers said, let's bring in a young offensive-minded coach who was like in his 30s still, I want to say. LaFleur's a pretty young guy. And he's going to rejuvenate the career of 35-year-old Aaron Rodgers. And in LaFleur's first season as head coach, much like Kevin O'Connell, the Packers popped up and won 13 games. The Packers were like a 6-win team, actually, the year before. Get LaFleur in here, Rodgers rejuvenated 13-win season. And in that 13-win season, the Packers, just like the Vikings last year, exceeded what they were supposed to win based on analytics and point differential. If you just look at point differential, the Packers were more like a 9-7 team. They only outscored their opponents by like 60 points all year. But coaching and chemistry and 8 one-score victories for the Packers in 2019 led them to sort of a place that they probably shouldn't have been, which is 13 wins. Now, then they took it. They actually went to the NFC Championship game. The Vikings can get out of the first round. But here they are. New coach, 35-year-old rejuvenated quarterback, and a team that wins a bunch of close one-score games in the regular season. And they fast forward to the 2020 draft, and instead of adding to what they've built, we've got Rodgers back in the mix. He's not that old, right? This is great. They decide to hedge, and some would argue, especially in retrospect, and reach for Jordan Love in the first round. They traded up to get a guy that most mocks had as like a second or third round pick, if I remember correctly, from 2019.
Right.
And so rather than add resources around their 35-year-old star quarterback that they just like breathed life into for the first time in 2 or 3 years, they start planning for his departure. And Rodgers had multiple years of high-level play left. And now there's another falling out. He has not forgotten that. You know, they went on to win 13 games each of the next 2 years. And you could argue, man, if they just had another great weapon, or if they just had another great usable asset that wasn't a backup quarterback collecting dust and holding a clipboard, that maybe the Packers would have gone to that next step and won the Super Bowl, right? So, yeah, you guys, I think the audience knows where we stand on Kirk, which is, he's definitely not Aaron Rodgers. I'm not putting him in that category. But should if it comes down to you reach for Hendon Hooker in the first round because you're so desperate to move on from Kirk Cousins, that just feels off to me. If you decide we love CJ Stroud so much at the top of the draft that we're going to trade future first round picks, that's a different story. But if you're so desperate to move off Kirk Cousins after a 13-win season that you're going to reach at the 23rd pick for Hendon Hooker, that feels like the thing we made fun of 4 years ago in Green Bay, or 3 years ago, I guess.
I think the difference is, and look, the Hooker thing, as far as I know, isn't really tied to the Vikings. I haven't heard a thing about, well, they love him. So that feels like a mocking thing. But the difference, I think, between what the Packers did back in 2020 and what the Vikings appear being the key word to be doing now is a matter of decisiveness. That Packer team felt very wishy-washy about personnel decisions, starting with Rodgers. Were they in or out? And to this day, you still don't know. They drafted a quarterback in the first round, presumably not only because they liked him, but to pick up the fifth-year option possibility, which is now being exercised. But, I don't know that there was a decisiveness there. The Vikings appear to be very intent on this is going to be Kirk's last year. So I actually appreciate that the Vikings right now appear to be on the same page, both from a GM standpoint and a coaching standpoint, because I would say the Packers didn't seem as if they were, or if they were, they certainly changed their minds quickly. All of that being said, I am with you. If your point is this Hooker thing, it seems forced, it doesn't seem smart. I agree with that completely. I also will continue to say, until I'm proven wrong, I think the approach of Kwesi Adofo-Mensah and Kevin O'Connell to this position is going to be very different from what Vikings fans are used to. And I think they're going to take swings. It's incredible. I went through the list last night, you guys. Rick Spielman became GM of the Vikings in 2012, okay? And he deserves, the Ponder pick was him. Les Frazier wanted a veteran guy. They traded for McNabb, a disaster in its own right. But Spielman definitely drafted Ponder. But beyond that, he drafted Teddy, he drafted Nate Stanley, and Kellen Mond. And that's all he drafted. He didn't even want to take swings. So do I think if you take swings on this position, it's forced? No. Do I think if you take the swing at the wrong place, i.e., Hooker looks good enough? Yes, that seems like a very much, to go back to like Ponder, a Spielman desperation pick.
Well, one thing that I think is, and you're kind of alluding to this, that's way different with Spielman versus Kwesi is most of those years that Rick was the GM from 2014 through at least 7 of the year. Well, how long was Zimmer here? 7 years or 8 years? 8 years, whatever it was.
14 through 21, right?
Yeah. Outside of the Teddy draft, which, by the way, Norv Turner was kind of the point person on that.
Right.
It wasn't like Mike Zimmer in his almost decade as a head coach was banging on Rick's door saying, hey, we got to get a quarterback. Hey, we got to get a star quarterback. Hey, I need my quarterback, right? He was always saying, hey, I need my cornerback. Hey, I need my edge rusher. Hey, I need my interior defensive lineman. I need a linebacker over here. So that's my guess is Kevin O'Connell. He's probably not anti-defensive players or wide receivers, but Kevin O'Connell would seem to have much more interest long-term in finding his co-pilot who's not 36 years old in a year from now. So, but I just think there's such a huge difference between identifying a guy that you like and maybe going up to get him versus, okay, well, 4 quarterbacks are off the board already. And man, we're hearing a lot of teams are interested in Hooker. We don't have a 2nd round pick. So we have him as kind of a 2nd or 3rd round grade. Well, we got to get someone. Let's do it, right? To me, that's what they did with Ponder. Oh my God, the first 3 guys are off the board and we really need a quarterback, so we have to do it. And in retrospect, and we could pull up a list of all the players that they probably could have drafted. What if you draft a beast interior defensive lineman and then just go you could have found any number of just clipboard holding backups to play at the level that Christian Ponder played at for 2 years. Well, they found one, Matt Castle, a year later. So I'm okay with drafting a quarterback, and I'm okay with finding Kirk's successor, clearly, even though he's still playing at a pretty high level. But I'm not okay if they do it the way that the Packers did. The Packers weren't planning ahead. To me, the Packers had a situation in front of them where you're winning 13 games. Don't be that desperate to move on. So I feel like we've, on this show, and I'm guilty of this, we have moved a little too far into desperately looking for Kirk's successor as opposed to smartly or wisely looking for Kirk's successor. And where I'm at now is I'm okay with Hendon Hooker if you trade back and get capital and it's all wrapped up in value. I'm not okay with Hendon Hooker if it's the only pick you make in the first 87 picks.
Yeah. I'm okay with shooting your shots on the position because, one, you feel like you've identified guys who can play and can be, if nothing else, coached up. I'm also okay with the fact that I think that the thought process now is going to be, let's take a look at guys. Let's try this. And yes, if it's a forced first round pick at any spot, that's a bad idea. I don't care if it's quarterback. Let's say it's center. Garrett Bradbury, let's just take him. We have to have a center. But I also think that what we need to get away from is this thought process of, if it doesn't work, it's over. If it doesn't work, it's over. And the other thing, and where the Vikings got caught, and Kirk's been fine, but he's just been fine. Where the Vikings got caught was, okay, we can't find one. Who can we pay? And to be clear, the majority of star quarterbacks never hit the free agent market. It's very rare, and if they do, there's a reason. So if your end of the day thought process is, well, we can't find one, let's just go sign one to a huge salary. Yes, it's going to hurt, but at least it's solved. That's not solving it.
Yeah. So, I'm guessing that is it today or tomorrow that Kwesi and KOC are talking to you? Is it today?
Today.
Guessing they're not going to go too in depth.
They're going to tell us
on this. and
we've never liked Kirk.
One thing to clarify. Again, I would not be desperately reaching for the 5th quarterback off the board in the first round. But on the flip side, if you didn't have an immediate successor that you loved long-term, but you did have an offer from the 49ers at some point for a couple 2nd-round picks or a future first-round pick and a 3rd, I would pull the trigger on that trade to get value for Kirk before I knew who was replacing him. Yep. I'm not afraid of that, just to be clear.
This would be an entirely different episode and probably a whole show. But until it's proven wrong, we cannot dismiss that if they don't think that they can find their guy, we could have a few years of a bridge quarterback here.
And you know what this franchise has done? They've won a lot of games with bridge quarterbacks in our lives.
Because guess what? They don't eat up your salary cap.
Yeah.
Like that's a whole thing. O'Connell trusts himself to coach guys. So like he is not going to say, if we don't force this draft pick and find Joe Burrow, I'm out of here. Screw it. Right.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. So I grew up, my first conscious memories of Vikings football are like 1990. I was born in 1985. And I remember like the late Jerry Burns era. So maybe 1990, 91. I had an Anthony Carter jersey as a kid. So I remember the very end of the Jerry Burns era. And then the whole, I grew up on the Denny Green era, basically. Mm-hmm. And the quarterbacks I watched as a kid were Jim McMahon, Rich Gannon, Warren Moon, Brad Johnson for a year, Randall Cunningham for a year, Jeff George for a year. And then they found their franchise guy for a minute until he tore his knee up, Dante Culpepper.
Yep.
And then we went back in. All right, every year it's going to be back to Brad Johnson, over to Tavares, then over to Farrat.
Back to Holcomb.
Yeah. Castle, all these guys.
I love it.
And guess what? In the 90s, especially with all these random dudes playing, and it's a different era, but all these random dudes playing quarterback, they won 8, 11, 9, 10, 8, 9, 9, 15, 10, 11 games. So it kind of goes into what you wrote for VikingsWire.com, which is let's all calm down with our Christian Ponder post-traumatic stress syndrome a little bit here, too, when it comes to finding Kirk's eventual successor.
It's funny, too, because I grew up, my first conscious memories are Dante. So, like, my first taste was franchise guy for the most part. Yeah. A guy that was volatile. Like, he definitely had some highs where he looked like an MVP, and he certainly had some lows where he was fumbling 25 times a year. But my first conscious memories are a franchise QB, and then it went into Brad Johnson, to T-Jack, to Farrat, to Holcomb, to Bollinger, to all those, slappy guys that they had to start. And once that, I think that's why I was so excited when they drafted Teddy Bridgewater. The Ponder one, everyone knew was a reach. Whether I was 18, I was a senior in high school, about to graduate when they drafted Ponder. But everyone knew that was a reach. But the Teddy one, a few years later, that was like, oh, this is the first time I feel like they're finding their first franchise guy since Dante.
Mm-hmm. We should almost maybe we do this leading up to the draft in a couple weeks here, because we have kind of 2 weeks of pre-draft shows to do, and then that's it. We should just do a whole episode talking about Christian Ponder post-traumatic stress syndrome and what it's meant to our lives, what it's meant to us as Vikings fans, followers, media.
Yeah.
How has it ever impacted your marriage? Christian Ponder post-traumatic stress syndrome. Your relationships with your kids, your parents.
I don't have kids. I don't have to worry about that.
Or parents.
No, they're dead now. So,
what's not dead? It's coming alive. The Meadows at Mystic.
Yes. Oh, God, yes. It's finally warm out. We're closer and closer to tee times, which has been great. And the Meadows at Mystic Lake is the best place to golf. You can stay up to date with tee time information there, of course. You can go grab the 10-round value pack. They also have the Meadows Bar and Grill. So once you're done with your round, or you're like me, you like to load up before your round, maybe with a couple seltzers or a couple beers, or just sitting on the patio, gazing out at one of the most scenic golf courses in all of Minnesota, go to golfthemeadows.com to stay up to date on tee times. Well, proud sponsor here of Score North and Purple Daily. We appreciate them. Go to golfthemeadows.com to stay up to date.
I'm actually I'm meeting with our friends at Federated Insurance today just to catch up, and now that I'm back in town, so looking forward to a little lunch meeting with them. And we appreciate Federated helping us grow our business here at Score North, Purple Daily, over the past few years. And they've just done so much great work for business owners. 1904 is the first year of Federated Insurance based in Owatonna, Minnesota. And they work with companies both inside and outside the state of Minnesota. So if you're outstate, if you're a business owner, they work with clients in all 50 states. Go to federatedinsurance.com to find a full list of industries Federated works with and protects. And remember, at Federated, it's our business to protect yours. Before we get to a random Viking of the week here, we touched on this a little bit with Doogie, but we didn't flesh it out in full depth on the Scoop episode. What is the real reason why they're doing the pre-draft press conference 2 weeks before the draft instead of like 2 days before the draft, which is how the Vikings always did it under Rick Spielman? What do you think?
My guess is that teams have decided it's best to get this done.
Yeah.
And they also don't think it's not like, oh my God, it's 2 days until the draft. And now Rick Spielman's going to tell the truth and we're going to find out exactly what I think this is probably a public relations move, but by Kwesi and O'Connell and probably all GMs and coaches, it's considered a pain in the ass that has to be cleared off the books. So my guess is that they're going to come out and give you the cliches and non-answers today and clean up or clear up draft week. That's my guess. I mean, it might go beyond that as far as potential moves that could be made in the next week or so that they don't necessarily want to discuss right now. But that's my simplest guess is it's all about the timing. And this is, I would guess, a deader period than the week of the draft, which is when I think Spielman would ordinarily do it on the Monday or Tuesday before the draft started on Thursday.
Yeah. See, Rick always felt like he knew exactly what he was doing, right? He's going to get up there. He's going to talk for 30 minutes. He's going to mostly say nothing, but he will strategically use the media to get some stuff out there. Do we really? Kwesi has done so few press conferences since he took the job, right? He's done like maybe a handful of open media press conferences.
I know where you're going. I have no clue.
We don't know is he going to use the media like pawns? Is he going to put a smoke screen out? We don't really know, right?
I think, what's funny? I think Rick prided himself on that. Like, I think Rick loved the cat and mouse game, and I think Rick thought it worked. My guess is guys Kwesi's age and with how he thinks don't care about that part. Like, because for Rick, it was a game, right? Like, I'm going to mislead them, and so the 49ers are going to have no clue. I think Kwesi's probably like, this is just a pain. Let's get this done. I don't know that he enjoys that part like Rick did.
Yeah. No, I mean, the USA Today thing, it's like he was so comfortable doing media and he was kind of an open book. And then he said you don't want to go full Rams. And it was like, I should never talk publicly again. Oh my God.
And the Kirk thing talked about Kirk and was pretty candid. And I think he was, again, I think part of the problem is if you're candid, you get a talking to.
Didn't he have to go and apologize to Kirk?
He went and called him. Yeah.
Because he kind of basically said,
I think he also called the Rams. I think he also called Les Snead at the Rams and apologized. And I don't think, at least in the Rams case, they didn't give a damn. They just won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, we went full Rams and we might suck for a while, but guess what? We got a Lombardi in our trophy case.
Right. And it's kind of, I don't know. I respect and I do think Kwesi is going to wind up being a good GM for the Vikings and the jury's still out. But, it was kind of weird 5 minutes after the Rams won a Super Bowl to say, you don't really want to go full Rams. And the Rams are like, okay, that's cool. Whatever. You guys haven't won a championship in 60 years, and here we are.
The Rams were great, though. F them draft picks.
Yep. Yeah, when's their next first-round pick? 2052?
Yeah, I'll be dead by then.
All right, it's time now for the Random Viking of the Week here on Purple Daily, where we mostly just get our asses kicked by Judd, who now has 50 career victories on Random
last week
Viking
50?
50?
I was thinking about that.
You knew you were close?
I didn't take a bow. Hall of Fame.
Some of the recent Random Vikings of the Week include J.T. O'Sullivan, Anthony Carter, Laquan Treadwell, Dwayne Rudd, Thomas DePay, and Warren Moon. Judd has a 50-29 lead all-time over the combination of Dex and old Macadac. We alternate throwing out clues. And it's my turn to throw out clues to you guys. You get up to 3 incorrect guesses. You can shout out guesses whenever you want to. And you can ask me questions if you want. I can refuse to answer. We also have spawned over on Minnesota Sports with Mackie and Judd, our other daily podcast, a random Minnesota athlete of the week where we go into other sports. And Judd has a 2-0 lead there as well because he is the historian sports dad.
I have no life. But that's okay.
Are you guys ready for this Random Viking?
Let's do it.
Let's go.
All right. This Random Viking of the Week, no Googling, originally hails from Pensacola, Florida. In high school, this Random Viking of the Week was named Defensive Player of the Year by the Pensacola News Journal.
One of my favorite publications.
It is a great publication.
I love the Pensacola.
In fact, let's see. Is it still operational? Pensacola News Journal. Let's see what pops up here.
Couldn't you just be the journal? Like, why do you have to be
the PNJ.com.
PNJ.
PNJ.com.
Get my copy.
Oh, it's still. Looks like. Oh, I either have to disable ads or I have to subscribe. Probably not going to subscribe.
Yeah.
To the PNJ, but.
All right.
Good to know that it's still thriving, or in existence, anyways. As a senior, this Random Viking had, this is a senior in high school, 120 tackles, 12 sacks, 6 forced fumbles, and 2 interceptions. A defensive monster in high school. This Random Viking of the Week played college football in the ACC and actually once earned first-team All-ACC honors.
Okay.
I can pause there for a minute, let you guys.
I have a pretty good indication, I think, who this is.
Really?
Oh, I'd like to hear it.
I'm waiting for a couple more clues to
That's how you lose. That's how you lose.
Oh, man. Declan's running the risk here. All right. This Random Viking of the Week. On December 31st, 2019, actually made an appearance on New Year's Eve with Steve Harvey. So Steve Harvey does like a New Year's Eve syndicated show across the nation. And this Random Viking, New Year's Eve 2019, made an appearance on the show.
Is it Roman Reigns?
Ooh, Dex tweets. Nope, that's the wrong button. You got it right. Sorry. Yes, you got it right.
Nice
Roman Reigns.
Nice work. Good job.
I thought I could sneak a fastball past you because I brought him up last week, and you were like, well, there's no way you can put that one together without it being obvious. And maybe there wasn't, I guess.
For whatever reason, the Pensacola, Florida, I was like, well, okay, I know he's from Pensacola.
Oh, I had no idea.
And then, but I mean, that's even though it's an obscure city, it's not a main city, like, okay. But then you were just doing high school stats, and I was like, okay, if he's not going to give any NFL stats, then clearly it's Roman.
Georgia Tech,
pretty good. Georgia Tech, yep.
So
if I would have given the college teammates with Calvin Johnson, it might have sparked something for Judd. But some of the other clues here, just for fun here. So he didn't get invited to the combine, but he did do a pro day at Georgia Tech. So they do have like combine data for him, enough to put together a raw athletic score, the RAS that Thor talks about every Tuesday.
Yep.
His RAS was off the charts. It was like, it's on a 1 to 10 scale. It was like 9.76. He had a higher RAS than Aaron Donald and Ndamukong Suh, but didn't have the football skills and, got leukemia and whatnot.
Yeah.
So, yep. NFL head coaches, Brad Childress and Jack Del Rio. He actually he spent some time in camp later that year with the Jaguars in 2007.
Oh, did he really? Interesting.
So, wow, Dex tweets. You got Lesnar and you got Roman Reigns.
You got wrestling.
Historically, doing pretty well. So, did he show up to like an off-season camp with the Vikings, or was he just kind of? He definitely he was there for photo day in 2007 because there are photos of him like in a Vikings uniform.
Yeah, he was in Mankato. I don't recall. I'm guessing that he was at their rookie camp that spring, but I remember him at Mankato, and then I heard he had gotten sick, and they released him, I think, injured. He didn't come out. It didn't come out that he was battling cancer for quite some time. I'm pretty sure that they just said it didn't work out, but I vaguely recall him. Joe Anoya, correct?
Yeah. I don't know how to pronounce it exactly, but yes.
I was really hoping you weren't going to ask me for his real name, because I don't know how to pronounce it. So I'm just going to go with Roman Reigns.
The head of
that's true.
I'm protesting.
I'm
the tribal chief himself.
I'm protesting. He didn't give us his Vikings name. Protest.
Oh, damn. So this edition of Random Viking of the Week is being played under protest. We will have a full review for next week. So, all right, there it is. Declan's the head of the table, the tribal chief.
Acknowledge me.
Acknowledge him. Actually, my last clue was going to be, if you guys somehow didn't get it before then, it was going to be, even though he never actually played a game in the NFL, it feels right to acknowledge his accomplishments. And then Declan probably would have got it if we would have gone that far. Acknowledge me. All right, we'll see you guys tomorrow on Purple Daily Vikings Entertainment.